Hi guys, today I'm canning apricots, which is one of my absolute favorite fruits. Actually, it is my favorite fruit. And I've got 4 pounds here that I found at the grocery store, and these are California apricots, which are the best. You're going to cut these in half to remove the pit, and you're going to cut right along the seam that they already have. Kind of looks like a little booty. A fun little fact is my grandparents growing up had an apricot farm. So going over there, I ate tons and tons of apricots when they were in season. And my grandmother used to can her own apricots and make apricot pie, which was one of my favorite pies, or it is my favorite pie. So if you've never had apricots, like fresh ripe apricots from a farm, you have to try them. They are so delicious. And apricots truly are by far the best fruit to preserve in any way. Dehydrated, canned, whatever. They preserve so well and they hold their flavors so incredibly well. I'm making 2-quart jars and I'm sterilizing my jars in the oven at 225 degrees for 20 minutes. I'm also going to be using a stock pot, and I've got my little silicone mat that goes inside to keep the jars off the bottom. My lids and rings are boiling, and I've got a simple syrup going, which is 1 part sugar, 4 parts water. So I use 4 cups of water and 1 cup of sugar, and I brought it up to a boil, and I'm going to put my apricots in here for 4 minutes. I like to just barely cook my apricots in the simple syrup because it gets rid of a lot of the air that's in the apricot, and it keeps my apricots from floating up at the top in the jar. I'm just making sure to add them in a few at a time, and I'm going to level this off and try to get most of them under the water, and I will be stirring these a little bit to make sure that they all heat up evenly. And you'll know when they're ready because they'll turn slightly translucent and a little bit darker, but they'll still be pretty firm. You don't want these to turn to mush, trust me, otherwise you're going to end up making apricot butter. So just keep an eye on it. Don't cook them for more than 4 minutes. That's going to be way too long, especially because there's sugar in this water. It's going to boil a lot hotter than just plain water would. Also, I wanted to mention that this simple syrup is on the light side. I think it would be more like a medium to light simple syrup because I don't like things to be too sweet, but you could actually go lower than this on the sugar and higher on the water, or you can even add more sugar than this. Also, we're going to keep the simple syrup that we're cooking the apricots in because that's what we're going to use to fill the jars up. Okay, my apricots are ready. I'm going to take them off the heat and pack my jars. I've just pulled my jar out of the oven. I keep my jars in the oven until I'm ready to use them, so they're always at a constant 225 degrees. And this just gives me peace of mind. You don't have to do that. You could take them out after the 20 minutes and set them on the counter, and they'll probably be fine, but I just figured why not keep them sterilized the entire time. That way I could take my time. So to pack these, you want to make sure to put them face down, and then you're going to kind of stack them around each other, but every single apricot half is going to be face down, or I guess it would be core side down. Also, normally you wouldn't be using a metal spoon inside of a hot jar, but since my spoon is going to be dipped into the hot syrup every time I grab an apricot, it's totally fine because there's not going to be a big temperature difference. But if my spoon was cold, you could break this jar doing this. So if you have plastic spoons available, it might be wiser to use those, but I'm pretty confident in the fact that my syrup is still really hot. I pack my jars this way because it just looks so much prettier than putting them in there randomly. And I do the same thing with peaches and plums. If I do half my plums, which I actually don't, I can my plums whole. So it just makes it look nicer in the jar, and it allows you to fit more apricots in there. I just love apricots. I love making pie, apricot pie, out of preserved apricots because that's what my grandmother did growing up, and that was my favorite. I have so many great memories on my grandparents' farm. They grew everything. They first had an apricot orchard, and then in the United States, they started importing apricots from Mexico, so they took out most of their trees and then planted a walnut orchard, and they used to sell their walnuts to Blue Diamond, but they still had several rows of apricot trees, and so we always had apricots, but they grew everything on this farm. So right here I'm just pointing out that you're going to fill the fruit up to that first line or that first ridge on your jar. Now I'm pouring in the simple syrup, and this is going to take about 2 ladles full. I'm filling it up about a 1/2 inch from the top rim. And this is the syrup that I boiled the apricots in also. Now you want to take a thin, slim non-metal spatula, like a silicone spatula, and we're going to push some of the air out by wedging this in between the jar and the apricots, and we're going to push towards the middle, and that's just going to release some of the air bubbles that are around the apricots. So you can see some of the air bubbles rising to the top here. It works like a charm, and this is going to free up some space in the jar as well. So we're going to refill it with a little bit of the simple syrup again until it's again a 1/2 inch from the top rim. Now I'm just grabbing my ring and my lid, and before I put the lid on, I'm going to make sure to wipe the rim very well. If it's sticky on the rim, you're going to want to use a damp cloth, and also you want to check for any chips on the rim of your jars because that would keep it from sealing properly. Alright, to put the ring on, you're just going to put it on finger tight, and that just means you're not going to crank it on there. You're just going to hold it and you're going to turn it as tight as your fingertips will allow it to go. Now I'm going to repeat all of that with my second jar, and 4 pounds of apricots will give you 2 quarts or possibly 2.5 pints, just depends on how big your apricots are. My guesstimate on this was actually spot on because I fit all of my apricots into these 2 jars. Alright, it's time to water bath these for 20 minutes, and you want the water to be boiling before you put the jars in. I'm a little shallow on the water, so I'm just going to pour the rest of my lid water into here because it needs to be 1 inch past the lids. So the water volume needs to go 1 inch past the lids. Depending on what your altitude is, you may have to add more time to your water bath time. So please refer to this chart and check online to see what your altitude is. It's been 20 minutes, it's time to take these puppies out. If you have some simple syrup left over, you can make a really mild apricot juice by pouring this over some ice and water. Alright, we're going to let these sit on the counter for 24 hours. When they are sealed, you'll know because the little dimple on the top will be inverted. That means it has sealed properly. If it's not inverted, then it didn't seal and you're going to have to stick this in the fridge or eat them right away. This is what the lid should look like when it's sealed. You see that little dimple is inverted? This one I've just set down here so it's still popped up, but in just a little while it'll pop and you'll hear it. Here are my jars all sealed up. Once they're sealed, you can move them around. If the jars are still pretty hot, I would just let them cool all the way before moving them or messing with them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more canning videos or possibly some fermenting videos like the sauerkraut, let me know in the comments and I will work on it. I do have the sauerkraut video coming up though, probably tomorrow, but I'd love to do some dehydrating videos for you guys and some more canning videos, so let me know in the comments what you want to see canned and I will work on a video for you. Also, I have done a apricot cheese Danish video using apricot preserves, so if you'd like to check that out, I will link it in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.